Welcome to the Formula Bone F1 Show's 2022 Spanish Grand Preview podcast. I'm Jared Borislow, but you can call me J-Bone. Let's get into it. J-Bone! Our first order of business today is getting to know the Spanish Grand Prix and its current circuit, the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Now, I specifically said current circuit because the Spanish Grand Prix has been held at many different circuits since it was first run as a Formula One World Championship event all the way back in 1951. It has been held at Pedralbes, Jarama, Montjuic, Jerez, and of course, Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, where it's been since 1991. It's a lot of different circuits for a Grand Prix. But I'll get to talking about the circuit that the Spanish Grand Prix is being held at this year in a minute. For now, sit back, relax, and enjoy some Spanish Grand Prix fun facts. First one, Max Verstappen achieved his first ever Formula One victory at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, which just so happened to also be his debut race for Red Bull. That is insane. To win on debut is amazing. Now, getting points on debut even is something that is always a storyline after it happens. Happened for Zhou Guanyu, happened for Yuki. Max won on debut. And especially considering Max's age at the time, he was 18 years, 228 days old. Max's victory at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix is seen as one of the all-time greatest debut performances in Formula One history. Like I said, he was just 18 years and 228 days old, and at 18 years, 228 days old, Max became the youngest ever F1 Grand Prix winner, the youngest ever F1 podium finisher, the youngest ever F1 lap leader, the first Dutchman to ever win a Formula One Grand Prix, and the first driver born in the 1990s to ever win a Formula One race. If you're wondering how Max was able to accomplish all of these incredible achievements, yes, it is of course partially because he's an incredible driver, but he had some help. Now, here's how that happened. The two rival Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton and eventual 2016 World Drivers' Champion Nico Rosberg collided with each other on the first lap of the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, knocking both cars out of the race. It was pretty crazy. You should go back and watch a replay. Pretty much Nico had the lead going into the first turn, which is a left to right. It's at the end of the pit straight, so it's really fast, and you got to slow down a bit. But you can go up the inside. It happens sometimes. Fernando Alonso notably went up the inside at the start of a race once, I think in 2013. It was really good. But Lewis went for it, and he ended up going onto the grass, spinning out. When he spun, his tail hit Nico's tail, both of them out of the race on the first lap. So that was a huge deal because Mercedes were far and away the strongest team on the grid in 2016. Mercedes would go on that season to win 19 of the 2016 season's 21 races. 19 out of 21 races were won by Mercedes in 2016. True dominance. They only dropped the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix to Max due to their double crash that I just talked about, and the 2016 Malaysian Grand Prix to Daniel Ricciardo due to Nico Rosberg colliding with Vettel on the first lap, and then Lewis Hamilton suffering a fiery race-ending engine failure while leading the Grand Prix around lap 40. Now, fun fact, that 2016 Malaysian Grand Prix was Red Bull's last 1-2 before Imola this season, as Max finished P2 behind Danny. Fun fact. I got a lot of fun facts for you guys this episode. Hope you enjoy. Now, speaking of which, in order to rebalance out the universe after that glowing Max fact I gave, I will now give a Lewis fact because I am a neutral F1 fan, despite all the Lewis fans thinking I'm a Max fan, and the Max fans thinking I'm a Lewis fan, just because I dare to say something positive about their rival, which, to be fair, I wouldn't exactly call Lewis Max's rival at the moment. A statement which I'm sure will have the aforementioned Lewis fans angry with me, but before you get mad check out these crazy facts about how dominant Lewis Hamilton has been at the Spanish Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is currently tied with Michael Schumacher for the most career Spanish Grand Prix victories with 6, and 5 of Lewis's 6 Spanish Grand Prix victories have come in the last 5 Spanish Grand Prix. Yes, you heard that right. Lewis Hamilton is currently on a 5 Spanish Grand Prix in a row winning streak, which is the longest active single Grand Prix winning streak in Formula One right now. Furthermore, Lewis achieved his 100th pole position last season at the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix, becoming the first Formula One driver to ever achieve 100 career pole positions. Michael Schumacher, by the way, is in second place all-time with 68 pole positions to Lewis's now it's 103. The contrast there demonstrates just how absurdly dominant Mercedes and Lewis have been since Lewis joined the Silver Arrows, because of course most of those came when he was on Mercedes. As for a Spanish Grand Prix fun fact not related to Max or Lewis, for people who, want to hear about other drivers than just Max and Lewis, who we hear about quite a bit, one of the wildest race victories of the last 10 years came at the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix at the hands of Williams' Pastor Maldonado, known by many as the King of Crashing because he crashed 40 times during his 5 years as a full-time F1 driver. But he did not crash at the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix, where he had the weekend of his life and notched what would end up being the only Formula One Grand Prix pole position, podium, and victory of his Formula One career. This victory was punctuated by a huge, smoky, scary fire that erupted in the Williams garage after the race that resulted in numerous injuries and an iconic photo of Maldonado, the guy who had just won the race 90 minutes earlier, carrying his 12-year-old cousin to safety. Maldonado's surprise 2012 Spanish Grand Prix victory is, unfortunately for Williams, their most recent F1 victory to date. That's a long drought. 10 years, in fact. I did the math for you. Now, as far as the circuit goes, the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix is being held at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya in Barcelona. The Grand Prix will be contested over the course of 66 laps around the 4.675 kilometer or 2.9 mile circuit, with the fastest lap record of 1:18.149 currently being held by Max Verstappen after he stole it off of race winner Lewis Hamilton on lap 62 last season. The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya's most famous, or should I say infamous, chicane is the very slow and technical and awful turn 14-15 chicane, which is regarded by Formula One drivers and sim racing enthusiasts alike as the worst chicane in Formula One. This is because the slow speed maneuvers that this chicane requires are said to totally ruin the flow of an otherwise fast flowing and well designed circuit. If you've ever played the F1 video game, you know what I'm talking about. This chicane stinks out loud. It's so not fun, and it's really difficult as well. I'm terrible at it. This chicane is the circuit equivalent of taking a high speed limit highway and then randomly making one small section of it 20 miles an hour and just one lane. What is this thing? Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya? A construction zone? Get it out of here, okay? Get this thing out of Formula One. This chicane was initially added in to the circuit back in 2007 to slow cars down as they enter the pit straight due to safety concerns, with how fast cars could be entering the pit straight and going really quickly down it. However, the Spanish Grand Prix organizers believe that by next season, so 2023's Spanish Grand Prix, they will be able to present F1 with a fully safe circuit design that has this chicane removed entirely. Now, the Spanish Grand Prix organizers plan to present Formula One with 2 designs for F1 to choose from for the 2023 Spanish Grand Prix, one with this chicane and one without it. Please, F1, pick the design without it and let this be the final season we have to deal with this crime against racing. Please. Now, as far as the tire compounds go for this year's Spanish Grand Prix, Pirelli have opted for their hardest possible selection. That's the C1 hards, the C2 mediums, and the C3 softs. The very durable C1 hards being in play this weekend means we very well may see some teams opting for a one-stop strategy in what is usually a two-stop race in seasons past. I'm looking at you, Albon. I'm looking at you. Speaking of getting the most out of your accessories, have you ever screamed at your sunglasses, "I wish you did more for me, you lazy piece of crap"? No? Is that just me? Well, regardless, I have not screamed that once ever since I got my amazing, thoughtfully designed sunglasses from Felix Gray Glasses, this episode's sponsor. I'm literally wearing them on my face right now, and you know I'm telling the truth about earlier because I have not screamed at all at my sunglasses this whole episode. The good folks at Felix Gray create effective, research-backed products to improve humans' relationships with technology. It all started 5 years ago when Felix Gray set out to create eyewear that would make it easier and more comfortable for humans to stare at screens. Why, you may ask? Because whether you like it or not, we all live in a digital world now, and that means we are forced to look at screens, and more screens all day, every day, even while outside. And the thing about all these screens is that they are wreaking havoc on our eyeballs and brains and causing things like eye strain, headaches, and blurry vision. The blue light emitted from these screens is the culprit, and Felix Gray's blue light lenses filter that blue light. 9 out of 10 Felix Gray customers experience relief from eye strain, headaches, and or blurry vision. You already know that Felix Gray sells clear and amber blue light glasses, both with and without prescription lenses, because I've talked about them on the show multiple times. But did you know that Felix Gray also sells blue light sunglasses that do way, way, way more for you than the pair of sunglasses you currently own? Get this. Felix Gray sunglasses filter blue light to save your eyes and brain, enhance color, showcasing all colors in their most true, vibrant hues, feature polarized lenses that block 100% UVA, UVB, and diminish distortion for optical clarity. By the way, polarized lenses are amazing. As anyone who spends a lot of time outdoors knows, if you ever go fishing, you know that it is so much easier to see the fish when you have polarized lenses because it filters that all the sun, reflecting off the water. Cannot recommend polarized lenses enough. They're so much better for your eyes, seriously. And by the way, these sunglasses also feature a backside anti-reflective coating to reduce indirect glare. These sunglasses do so much, I mean it, when I say that these sunglasses truly do more than any sunglasses on the market today. And right now, you can get free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges for a completely risk-free shopping experience when you buy a pair with my unique URL, felixgrayglasses.com/FBONE. Try them out, and if they're not for you, just help yourself to free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges. You have nothing to lose, folks. That's FELIXGRAY glasses.com/FBONE. There's a link for that deal in the description of this episode. Thank you to Felix Gray Glasses for supporting the Formula Bone F1 show. Next up, here are your storylines to follow for the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix, baby. The first storyline, you are going to hear the word upgrades a lot leading up to and during the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix weekend. If you're wondering why, it's for two reasons. The Spanish Grand Prix is the first European Grand Prix on the calendar, which logistically makes it the easiest race thus far to which parts can be transported. And secondly, Barcelona is one of Formula One's pre-season testing sites. So not only do drivers know the circuit very well and thus can focus more on car development than learning the track. For example, at a new race track like Miami, the drivers had to spend a lot of the practice sessions learning the track, and they themselves couldn't really give as much information on car development because they're so focused on making sure they know the track so they can have a good qualifying and a good race. Whereas in Barcelona, they all know this circuit really well. They've already been there this season at preseason testing. The older drivers have been there for years now, including testing during those years. This is one of the circuits they know better than any other circuit. So it's super helpful for the drivers to help with car development and being able to, do specific things on track that the team wants, sacrificing potential learning laps for learning about the car laps. Also, though, teams have a ton of historical data that they can use to help drivers get the most out of their upgrades when they're introduced at this circuit. And additionally, teams can directly compare their current cars to their preseason cars, which helps them track their car's development thus far. Speaking of which, the second storyline, the fate of the Mercedes F1 team's entire 2022 season relies on this weekend's Spanish Grand Prix. Why, you may ask? Because during preseason testing in Barcelona, Mercedes used an entirely different car than the one they brought to Bahrain testing and have been using ever since. You know, the one that's turned one of the greatest drivers of all time into a solid midfield driver. That car. No team will learn more about their car at the Spanish Grand Prix than Mercedes will, because this weekend will allow them to compare the data from their current side podless car to the data from the car with side pods that they ran at this very same circuit during Barcelona testing. Mercedes have stated already that they have not ruled out a return to their original, more conventionally designed car with side pods if the data this weekend tells them that the car with side pods is superior to their zero pod car. Now, it's worth noting that at Barcelona testing with their original car design, Mercedes finished the third day of testing with the 2 fastest times. So there's that. Personally, I think this is all very calculated from Mercedes. I think Mercedes' plan all along was to hope that their side podless car was a winner from the get-go, and if not, they would just wait until after the Spanish Grand Prix and compare data between the two cars, and then, if they need to, return to their original design for the remainder of the season. My guess is that because porpoising is difficult, if not impossible, to replicate in a wind tunnel or computer program, Mercedes had no clue how bad their side podless car's porpoising would be, and that it ended up being way worse than they imagined, with that being the reason why their car has had a lackluster start to the 2022 season by Mercedes standards. I would not at all be surprised if this weekend's Spanish Grand Prix is the last Grand Prix at which we see Mercedes' zero-pod concept. I also wouldn't be surprised if it was not, but something definitely to watch for, which is the point of this segment of the podcast, that's storylines to watch for. The third storyline, can Fernando Alonso turn his Formula One season around at his home Grand Prix? Somehow, Fernando Alonso has earned just 2 points so far this season, despite making 4 out of 5 Q3s in qualifying. Those lone 2 points that he has came courtesy of his P9 finish at the first race of the season in Bahrain. Ever since then, things have just not been going well for the Spaniard, as he DNF'd in Saudi Arabia and Imola due to issues out of his control, came in last place in Australia due to getting caught in a DRS train, and finished P9 in Miami before a post-race time penalty dropped him out of the points to P11. Lance Stroll was pretty happy about that. That got him into the points. Fernando Alonso has got a fast car. He's got a fast car. He's going to take it to Spain. Maybe he can get a win. Okay, I don't know why. I'm leaving that in. I just had to improv that real quick. Anyways, Fernando Alonso's got a fast car and has been qualifying incredibly well, but it's just not happening for El Plando Alonso right now. Hopefully, a little home Grand Prix action will change up his luck. Not only is the Spanish Grand Prix Fernando Alonso's home Grand Prix, but it is also the site of his most recent Grand Prix victory back in 2013. Will he turn things around at his home Grand Prix in the site of his most recent F1 victory? Only time will tell. He's got a fast car. The final storyline, does the Spanish Grand Prix better suit Red Bull or Ferrari? The case for it suiting Red Bull are that Red Bull just won 2 races in a row, one of which from P3 on the starting grid behind 2 Ferraris. So clearly, Red Bull have the faster car right now, even before you look at any upgrades that they may be bringing to the Spanish Grand Prix. It's worth noting that Ferrari are currently very angry at how much Red Bull have upgraded their car thus far this season, even going so far as to claim it may be against the rules of the F1 budget cap. Ferrari boss Mattia Binotto said, quote, "I hope, because there is a budget cap, that at some stage Red Bull will stop developing. Otherwise, I think I will not understand how they can do that." The case for the Spanish Grand Prix suiting Ferrari mainly hinges on the quality of the upgrades Ferrari plan to bring to Barcelona, including their long-awaited new floor copying Red Bull's design that's meant to lessen the intense porpoising the Ferraris are prone to experiencing. About Ferrari's upgrades, Binotto said, quote, "In the next races, it will be our turn to try to develop as much as we can by introducing upgrades. I think it's not a surprise that we may have a package in Barcelona, which will be important for us. As usual, I hope that the package that we're introducing works as expected, and, in that case, it can be a good boost in order to try to catch up." Do you know what would benefit Red Bull and Ferrari? If their drivers wore Bird-dog shorts instead of fire suits. Allegedly, results not guaranteed. This episode of the Formula Bone F1 show is sponsored by Birddogs, who make the best shorts, pants, and joggers you will ever wear. I promise you, I'm wearing the joggers right now, and I am so comfortable. And right now, you can get a free Birddogs tumbler with your order when you use code FBONE, that's FBONE, at checkout on birddogs.com. I'm going to focus on Birddogs shorts here, because it is either short season or rapidly approaching short season, depending on your distance from the equator. I personally will be wearing Bird-dog shorts all summer long. All summer long. It's a music-heavy episode, clearly. Because you can do anything in them. You can wear them while watching Formula 1, working out, playing sports, sleeping, molding Gunther Steiner's face out of Play-Doh, and even swimming. Bird-dog shorts are the best because you can get them with built-in underwear that feels better on your skin than the finest cashmere and is also super breathable, does not bunch up like traditional underwear does, and is quick drying, hence the whole thing about swimming in them. I love to wear my Birddogs in summer because you're ready to jump into a pool at any time, as long as you take your phone out of your pocket. Now, as far as the free tumbler goes, Birddogs found Yeti's $90 tumbler, copied it, and now Birddogs is giving it to you as a free gift with your order when you use code FBONE, FBONE. Go to birddogs.com right now, enter promo code FBONE, and they'll throw in that free tumbler with your order. You will not want to ever take your Birddogs off, I promise you. I never take mine off. I'm wearing them right now, like I said. There's a link for that deal in the description of this episode. Thank you to Birddogs for supporting the Formula Bone F1 show. Finally today, it's time to share with you all my 3 Bone-afide race predictions for the Spanish Grand Prix that are all 100% guaranteed to come true. Bone-afide prediction number 1, Max Verstappen will win the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix. Max is just driving out of his mind right now. If it weren't for that safety car in Miami, he would have absolutely destroyed Leclerc. I'm riding with Max to win every race until he bucks me off. Bonafide prediction number 2, we will see an Alfa Romeo double points finish at the Spanish Grand Prix. The Alfa Romeos have been fast lately, fast, in fact, with Bottas looking the part and Joe getting unlucky in qualifying the last 2 rounds. I think we see the Alfa Romeos reignite their Bahrain Grand Prix double points magic in Spain, a circuit that's fairly similar to the Bahrain International Circuit in design. And finally, bonafide prediction number 3, Fernando Alonso will get his 2nd points finish of the season at his home Grand Prix. It's his home Grand Prix, and the site of his most recent F1 victory back in 2013. Yes, it's been 9 years since Alonso last won, which is wild. So I think El Plando Alonso, I think his luck, is going to turn this weekend. It's time. It's time for El Plan to finally kick into gear. Let's go, baby. El Plan! Those were J-Bone's bonafide race predictions. Now I want to hear your bonafide race predictions. Let me see them in the comments, or you can tweet them at me at Formula Bone if you're listening to the Formula Bone F1 show instead of watching it on YouTube. That's it for today's episode of the Formula Bone F1 show. If you enjoyed the show and want to help me out, I would really appreciate it if you could toss me a comment, like, subscription, rating, review, or any other form of engagement on whatever platform you're on right now, so that said platform and its algorithm like me more. I respond to pretty much every YouTube comment, and if you do not believe me, try it out. For Formula One updates between now and my Spanish Grand Prix recap podcast, you can follow me on all social media at Formula Bone and at my real name, Jared Borislow. That's at JaredBorislow. Until next time, folks, J-Bone!